I'll call this meeting of the Christiansburg Town Council to order. And as we have been doing for the last year or so, we're going to take a moment of reflection. I'm going to ask all of you to keep the family of the gentleman from Hercules or Redford Arsenal that died from the injuries he received, and any other things that you would like to reflect on. Thank you. Thank you. We'll rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I want to ask Councilman Sam Bishop if he would lead the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda? Hearing none. We have two public hearings tonight. Conditional use permit request by Marie March, agent for Big Bear Properties, LLC, Fatback Soul Shack, LLC, for a loudspeaker sound amplification outdoor sound system to be used in excess of the town of Christiansburg noise ordinance at 2440 Roanoke Street, tax map number 500-A-8A, 500A-8 and 500A-B, 9B, 9C, and 9D in the B3 General Business Zoning District. Is there anyone here to address this issue? Hearing no one?
She went out to take a phone call. She just said...
She said she's good. Says she's good.
I think they're still doing testing on that stuff anyway. I think they haven't gone out and done all the stuff.
Did she want to address this issue?
She's on the phone. She said she was good.
She was good. All right, I'll close that portion of the public hearing. Conditional use permit request from Marie March, agent for Big Bear Properties, LLC, Due South Barbecue, LLC, for a loudspeaker sound amplification outdoor sound system to be used in excess of the town of Christiansburg's noise ordinance at 1465 and 1495 Roanoke Street, tax map number 529A-27 in the B3 General Zoning District. Is there anyone here to address this issue?
She's good as well.
Do what?
She said she's good as well.
I will close the public hearings. Under the consent agenda, we have a council meetings of June 12, 2018, and the monthly bills.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sachs?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
Okay, that is 6-0. Under citizens' comments, this is a portion of the meeting we open for anyone to come before council and address concerns or issues. If you would like to address council, you'll come to the podium, or you can stand in place, name, residential address, and please address your comments to the chair. Anyone here?
Jonathan Taylor, 685 School Lane. Andrew has a short clip for y'all. It's going to run over my 3-minute time segment, so at that point, we will address council with her name and address to continue. Andrew, whenever you'd like to play.
Can we go ahead and give that now so we can play straight through?
I'm sorry, Marie.
Can we go ahead and give that now so we can play straight through?
Sure.
Yep, 2198 Sowers Road, Floyd, Virginia, Marie March.
At a regular meeting of the Town Council of the Town of Christiansburg, Virginia, the town desires to update its noise ordinance. This article shall be known and referred to as the Noise Ordinance of the Town of Christiansburg, Virginia.
As far as options to the sound go, I've had people tell me, why don't you relocate? I can't relocate. I don't have the money to relocate. And the houses back there, they moved in knowing they moved in behind the drive-in. And why wouldn't it be noise? We're showing movies outside at night. Why wouldn't it be noise? Daddy built this whole place, Richard Beasley. He come up here and it was a cornfield. Behind us, there was nothing. Nothing at all. That was back in 1952. We wasn't even in the town limits back then. Yeah, we were 2 miles east of Christiansburg.
The Starlight Drive-In enjoyed early success, but its outdated sound system used a series of small speakers, which were easy to damage or steal. Some vehicles would use the radio broadcast alternative, but after idling during the entire feature-length film, many would end up with drained car batteries, forcing Peggy to spend her nights jumping her customers' vehicles.
For the first 60 years of the drive-in, we had the field-rate speakers on the poles, and I figured I would keep up with the times and put some better sound speakers up, because the speakers were getting stolen, they were getting pulled off and run over, the poles being pulled over. So I called the town council, I called the mayor, the chief of police, and the town manager. The town manager was the one that said, go ahead. He said, go ahead and do it, you know what you're doing. The chief of police and the mayor never did call me back, but at least Mr. Helms did. So I got the big speakers and I put them up here on the roof, on the projection booth. And it wasn't no time at all before the police come over here and said, well, what are you doing?
At great personal cost, Peggy has been compliant with the town's requests. Despite this, the town still wanted more.
I've been compliant with the town, yes, I do. As far as that goes, yes, I moved the speakers from the top of this building to down front. We have since taken the bass off. There's no boom, boom, boom. I think it sounds pretty good with no bass. And I'm sure people know it, and maybe that's why they crank their radios up. I don't know. But it is clear and concise. I got the radios, the transistors, I got them on my own. Just trying to, put forth some effort. It hasn't really helped. Yeah, I've done a whole lot to try to accommodate the town, but nothing I do seems to be enough. When they were talking about the noise ordinance, and they told me to write down what it was I wanted, and I told them, to give me like 75 or 70 or 75 on the decibel reader, and no.
Due to a zoning oversight, the area surrounding the Starlight Theater was never classified as a business district, allowing for housing development nearby. Despite businesses being allotted 65 decibels, the new ordinance states that regardless of origin, upon reaching a residential district, sounds must not exceed 52 decibels, quieter than most air conditioning units. Seemingly aware of how restrictive their ordinance would be, the town has conveniently exempted any sanctioned events from the ordinance, allowing them to host fundraisers and other events at a noise level which would be illegal for anyone else.
Because, see, the high school's exempt with their football games. They're going to build that new park up there off Hickok Street. It's going to be several events, the way I can understand it. And that's all going to be noise exempt. And I really don't get that. I mean, the town can have events, but why can't they keep them within the noise areas like the way I do? I think the driveway is a wonderful idea. I mean, the people that come up here have a wonderful time, and I go out and talk to them from time to time, and oh yes, we love the driveway, we love the food. We love the chance to get out and sit under the stars and watch a movie. I mean, that is amazing. And I think it's a good thing for the town. I mean, why wouldn't it be a good thing for the town? So I've questioned them many, many times. How come you can't be happy that you got a driveway? You don't have much else in town to go to. And so they don't ever answer me on that one. So, yeah, I got some people that really appreciate it, and they're very strong about wanting the drive-in to stay open. So, we'll see.
Thank you. Anyone else to address in citizens' comments? Hearing none, I'll close the citizens' comment portion. Under introductions and presentations, engineering department staff to provide an overview of the engineering department's responsibilities, operations, and staffing. Mr. Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and council. It's a great pleasure this year that I take part in this presentation. I didn't want this to be the same dog and pony show presented in years past. We're on the verge of greater change, and I wanted to involve two of our engineering staff, Jesse Nestor and Steve Palmer, who are integral to our day-to-day operations and who are both integral to our future. I will introduce them both individually, and then I will share a few final thoughts. Jesse Nestor is our Assistant Director of Engineering, supervisor of both capital projects and utilities, in addition to the three department staff that support these operations. Jesse started with the town 15 years ago as an intern while attending Virginia Tech. He's continued to grow, is now a Virginia licensed professional engineer, and heads up a very dynamic operation. To assist the town with our current and upcoming VDOT-funded capital projects, Jesse recently completed a VDOT-sponsored project manager 2-week training. Upon returning, Jesse made an immediate impact with information gained from that training. It had a positive impact on our proposed smart-scale project applications. He's organized, efficient, and has an eye for detail. To share an overview of our capital project and utility programs, I'm pleased to introduce Jesse Nestor.
Thank you, Wayne. Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about what we do in engineering. I'd like to start with a quick overview of some of the functions that we're involved in and the disciplines that those functions apply to. And I won't go over every one of them right now. I'll dig a little bit deeper here. I'd like to start off talking about our utilities and primarily speaking about our water and wastewater programs here. And some of the things that we do to look after those utilities. First of all, we maintain a set of standards and specifications, and those are applied to development projects as well as our own capital projects, so that if a utility is being constructed here in Christiansburg, a water or wastewater utility, that we conform with the standards that the state has given us permission to operate under. A part of that is our plan review process. So anytime there's development here in town, we look over those drawings and check for conformance. And then we report that to the health department, primarily the health department, to let them know when there is development here in town and what's being constructed. Part of that is also our inspections program, where we observe the construction of those utilities, and then we conduct testing on those utilities. And then we send the results of those tests to the health department as well. As our infrastructure ages and over time, we perform a variety of studies to make sure that our systems continue to serve our needs. And as a result of those studies, we formulate capital improvement plans. A good example of that, as you saw at the previous council meeting, is the study of the downtown watershed. That was a stormwater study looking at the capacity of that system and making sure that it will meet our needs in the future. And then all of these things really contribute to our regulatory compliance and making sure that we keep the folks at the state level happy with what we're doing here. Moving on, I'd like to talk about our capital projects a little bit and some of the things that we do there to make sure that we keep those projects in check and meet the objectives for each project. First and foremost, we do pursue funding opportunities. And I'll share a slide here in a minute that kind of summarizes what we're looking at this year. Project management, I guess, is the best way to summarize what we do with our capital projects, and really the next four pieces there, scope, schedule, budget, and public involvement, are really our four, I guess, critical measures of success for project management. Within the scope, we like to make sure that on each project we solve the problem, that we clearly identify the problem and then solve it. With regard to schedule, it's very important that we finish our projects on time, and as you'll hear from VDOT in the future, even early. That's the new expectation. We keep an eye on our budget at each stage of the project. Every time we achieve a milestone, whether it be 30% plans, 60% plans, or going to bid, we revisit the budget and make sure that we're still in line with our budgetary commitments. And then really the most important piece here is the public involvement. And something that we do with each project is we sit down, we have an effort on every single project to consider the stakeholders and how we should communicate with those stakeholders. Some of our larger projects, we put that in writing. Some of our smaller projects, maybe it's not necessary. Maybe it ends up being more of a posting on our website. And then, as I mentioned here a second ago, with regard to pursuing the outside funding sources, this is a snapshot out of this upcoming year's budget as approved. And as you can see here, if you look at the totals there at the bottom, we actually have more grant funding than we have town funding. And I think that's a testament to the staff here and the talent that we have. And really, this is a team effort, top to bottom. I work on the applications, Wayne works on the applications, Steve, Randy works on every application. And so as you can see there, in total, in this year's budget, we have about $22 million worth of capital projects. And so I feel like we have a very talented staff, and we're pleased to deliver that. Wayne?
When Todd Walters left our employment, I wondered, how do you ever replace 30 years of land development and customer service experience? I've always said, if you can't be good, be lucky. Well, we got lucky. It just so happened that a young man had just relocated to the New River Valley with his wife. Being a licensed professional engineer, Steve had planned to start his own business, something he had done before. He was taking a well-deserved break between last Thanksgiving and last Christmas when our ad for an assistant director of engineering with land development responsibilities caught his eye. Management of land development was a big part of his role at his previous job at the city of Tallahassee. Steve also possesses the patience, understanding, respect, and fairness that are paramount for customer service. This makes Steve highly effective in his daily duties and with the supervision of 5 department staff. To share an overview of our land development and operations programs, I'm pleased to introduce Steve Palmer.
Thank you, Wayne. Very gracious introduction. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, council members, Mr. Manager. In my opinion, success is all about the staff. You know, we've got 6 very talented staff members. We have Patricia Kolatosti. She's our environmental program supervisor. Dayton Poff, the town's GIS coordinator. Carl Carell, our licensed land surveyor and engineering technician. And Alan Shaw, our environmental inspector and resident firefighter, and myself. We presently have 1 vacant environmental inspector position we hope to fill very soon. Together, go ahead. Sorry. Together, we're responsible for a review of each land development and redevelopment project within the town limits. We're averaging about 100 active projects per year, including residential projects. 23 commercial projects, though, over the past 12 months. That's pretty robust, I think. And we're also responsible for 4 very important town programs: the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer Program, the MS4, the Erosion and Sediment Control Program, the ESC, the Virginia Stormwater Management Program, the VSMP, and the Townwide Geographical Information System that everybody knows as GIS. Some facts about the operations side of the team. We've got right now 600 stormwater facilities within town limits that are in operation and require inspection every 2 years. That's a pretty tall task in itself, but we also average about 2,500 inspections per year using our 2 inspectors that we have. We right now have 41 active general construction permits in effect in the town right now, so there's 41 active projects that need to be inspected pretty much every day or every other day. Moving on to customer service. Customer service is the biggest, most important job that we have, really. I mean, it consumes the section, and everyone's involved in it one way or another. We have responsibility for frontline contact with citizens that have concerns about their sewer and water service, maintenance of culverts and ditches, stormwater-related concerns such as nuisance or structural flooding, just about any other customer service-related issue that might come up, potholes, nuisance trees, hedges that need to be trimmed, generally come to us or Public Works, and then we collaborate to find a solution and have something done to correct the situation. And GIS. Just about every department in the town uses GIS in one way or another. It's a very important part of our program. Engineering uses it for stormwater inventory and asset management, streets maintenance, scheduling, and capital project design. Public Works uses it for work orders and asset management. Public Safety uses it for emergency call routing and dispatch. And planning uses it for zoning, land use, economic development, that sort of thing. And the citizens use it. It's available on the web. They use it to look up their information on their lot, or maybe look up what's next door to them, or maybe what's coming up in the future on our web page. And we are all well aware how vital our job is to maintaining our standard of living and property values, and we take that responsibility very seriously. The 6-person land development and operations staff maintain certain credentials in order to meet basic state requirements. The state requires that we have those credentialed individuals on staff to operate our program. But that's also required because of the level of expertise needed to coordinate all of these programs. So we've got some very talented people on staff that can that make this work in a very complicated program. On a personal note, I've been a supervisor of this group for about 6 months, and I can honestly say this is the most hardworking, professional, and responsible group I've worked with in my career. So, thank you.
22 years ago, when I first began my employment with the town, the engineering department consisted of 2 people, Bill Layton and Todd Walters. This department is now matured to 12 permanent full-time staff, including 5 licensed professional engineers, 1 licensed land surveyor, 3 staff with associate degrees, 9 Bachelor of Science degrees, and 3 staff members who hold a combined 4 master's degrees. In addition to the staff Steve named, we also have Justin St. Clair, Eli Manning, Paul Vest, and 2 summer interns, Hudson Chase and Caleb Hanneman. Devin Eckstein, our administrative assistant, deserves special recognition. Her support reaches far beyond what I envisioned. When a need arises or change is needed, Devin is there to support us. These are some of the most professional and talented people that I've had the privilege to work with. These fine people play a vital role this upcoming fiscal year. As an example, and for starters, this weekend we'll be advertising 5 projects for construction. While we'll be initiating recently funded VDOT projects, we'll also be looking at the CIP for the impact of future projects on future budgets. We'll be initiating a pavement management program to better manage our 150 centerline miles of street pavement infrastructure. We'll be initiating RFPs for the design of the Connector Road and design of the Truman Wilson Property Park. We'll continue evaluating possible changes to the stormwater utility fee and the stormwater ordinance. We'll be taking steps to improve our land development review and inspection program. This is a limited list, but we have lofty goals for this upcoming fiscal year. I look forward to presenting and discussing these projects and programs with administration and council. All this wouldn't be possible without the help we've received this past year. I want to pay a special thanks to administration, Randy, for your support, to finance, Val, for your continued guidance and direction, and to HR, Dave, for your understanding of the engineering department's needs, and for your ability to help attract the caliber of the staff that we now have. It's not enough to hire someone with the right qualifications. We have to retain those employees after we hire them. Lastly, I'd like to thank council for the support we've received. It's our mission to bring your vision to reality, and we will do our very best to make that happen. This is a great council, one of the most engaged councils I've had the privilege to work under in my 22 years thus far. You have great vision and make great decisions that are in the best interest of all our citizens. For this, I, along with the engineering department staff, am truly grateful and appreciative. Thank you.
Thank you, Wayne. Any questions or comments for Wayne or Jesse or Steve?
I'd like to make a brief comment, and I have a question for each, Mr. Palmer. So I think we have a new resolution writer. I think Mr. Nelson should be engaged as a resolution writer. Very nice presentation. So Mr. Nestor, what's your first love of all the areas of practice here that you described? What's your first love? What do you like the best?
Drinking water.
Okay, water. Okay. Mr. Palmer?
The customer service.
Customer service. We are lucky. It was a great presentation. A lot of I appreciate it. It was a great presentation.
You know, I like that, Wayne. The presentation was excellent, and it looks to me like you have some outstanding people working for you who like to do what they're doing their job. And I think you need to get a little bit of the, for hiring these people, you're probably involved with them directly or indirectly. And I think so we need to say thank you to you for getting these quality people to work for us. And the second thing I have to say, probably the whole presentation was excellent, but the thing that really struck me the most was the grants and how much money we are generating for grants. And usually you have town councilors saying, how come you're not getting more grants and all this and that? And you people are just way ahead of us, and I just hope you can keep that up, and that's outstanding. Thank you.
10 years ago it was goose egg, and now it's a lot. It's 7 digits, well into 7 digits. 10 years ago there wasn't anything. So, yeah, I agree with that.
Anyone else? I will echo the thoughts of council, and I have the ability and I guess the honor to observe your department almost on a daily basis. And it's quite impressive the way you work as a team. The management meetings that you have and the project meetings that you have to go over these things, it just shows that we're on top of it and want to stay on top of it. So Thank you, Wayne. Joan?
And can I say one thing too, Mr. Mayor? The grants, it'd be nice if sometime you would come in here, Wayne, and put on the sheets for us up here and let the public see what these grants have allowed us to do in town. I think that would be a great program. Yeah. Thank you all very much. Thanks.
All righty. Next are committee reports. Councilman Collins and Stipes Street Committee report recommendation. The plat of survey showing a new 20-foot access easement and a portion of an existing 20-foot access easement hereby vacated in Robin Hood Estates Phase 2.
As he's pulling up the sketch, the first one's pretty straightforward. Well, there's one item we'll take action on, and then we'll have the street committee have one other item to bring to your attention. So the plat that the street committee's reviewed is in Robin Hood Estates at the end of Little John Circle. It is one of the last remaining stormwater management facilities that the town will be maintaining. That's in a private development. This is a holdover from many years ago, and you can't get it turned around right.
I have to save it on the hard drive.
Okay, so it's sideways. You can see the end of Little John Circle and see to the left the stormwater management, town of Christiansburg back here. There's a stormwater pond there, and where Andrew's arrow is at the top is where the existing access is. Go ahead and show that. That access is what Mr. Nelson affectionately referred to as a Thelma and Louise access that sort of comes off of a driveway that's there, and it just ends, and if you're having a bad day and you want to drive off the cliff, you can. So we're the proposal is to abandon that easement, and the town has coordinated with the owner to create a new easement, which is an easement that the town will have that's going to be a paved access to the stormwater management area that we can access and maintain the pond properly with, and it's not a Thelma and Louise access, it's much better. So with that being said, the street committee feels that this is in the town's best interest, and the plat is being presented and needs action by council to approve, and the street committee recommends approval of the plat, and I'll make that recommendation in the form of a motion.
Yeah, I second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any comments, questions? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop. Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Stipes.
Aye.
That's 6-0. Thank you very much.
There's one more item. The street committee reviewed several items. One item that we'd like to bring to your attention is, as you know, we recently took action to reduce the speed limit on North Franklin Street and Bradford Road, but North Franklin Street has particular interest because of the volume of traffic. The interest in doing this was safety related, and as we're trying to make the town more bicycle pedestrian friendly, and we're starting the project here in the next few months, we feel there's a strong correlation between doing this here and what we did on Roanoke Street several years ago. It used to be 45 and now it's 35. We looked at 3 years of accident data, crash data, prior to the reduction speed limit, meaning when the speed limit was 45, and we looked at 3 years of crash data following since the 35 miles per hour speed limit, and there's essentially, we don't have information on the severity of accidents, but there's been a 40% reduction in crashes directly related to, or we can only assume is directly related to the reduced speed limit, which is typical with roads, but this is objective data, and we just want to bring that to council's attention, and anyone that's interested in the action we took and why we took it, and the side benefit, and not only safer for vehicles, but as our project gets started, there will be reduced speed during construction, but then ultimately it will also be safer for bicycles and pedestrians and create a much safer environment for them as well. So just want to bring that to council's attention and the public as to some objective data on a very similar situation in town. That's it.
That's a good point there too, because I'm sure the traffic has picked up on that during these years, and the accident rate is going down, even though the traffic flow is probably increasing.
There's typically historical trends are, yes, a 1.5% to 2% growth per year. So yeah, you could assume that the traffic has gone up, but the accident, this is just empirical crash data. So yeah. And Mr. Collins, would you like to add anything to that?
I don't think so. Thank you, right, everybody.
Okay.
Good stuff.
Thank you, Mayor.
Good, so we have an action on, we have passed the ordinance or the request. Very good. Under discussion and action by mayor and council action on a conditional use permit request by Peggy Beasley for a loudspeaker sound amplification outdoor sound system to be used in excess of the Town of Christiansburg noise ordinance at 225, 275, and 365 Starlight Drive Southeast. Tax maps number 529-A-12, 529A-13, and 529A-14 in the B3 General Business Zoning District. Public hearing was held on June the 8th, 2018. It was reviewed by Planning Commission within the last week or so. Andrew, do you want to fill us in on that?
Yes, the planning commission made a recommendation of 8-0 with 2 conditions, and they're listed here on the screen. And the first is to allow for sounds for the full run of the first movie on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday nights during the months of April through October to not exceed 65 decibels, DDA in residential zoning districts and 65 in business zoning districts. And then the permitted C-weighted decibels would not exceed 70 decibels during the first full run of the movie. The allowance would permit the movie to use outside sound system no later than 12 a.m. To the noise standards stated above. And then the second condition would allow for up to 5 concerts per year with the similar conditions. It could be any time during the year, January through December. It would have to end by 11, and it would be subject to the same noise standards that I mentioned in condition 1.
And that was an 8-0 vote by the Planning Commission, is that correct? Any action on this matter? Is there a motion to accept or deny?
No one else will speak up. I supported the noise ordinance that our planning commission came up with. I'll likewise support the conditional use permit request by Ms. Beasley as prescribed to exceed our noise ordinance as prescribed in the action by planning commission. So I'll make a motion that we accept the planning commission's recommendation to permit the issuance of a conditional use permit as presented.
A second. I will.
Got a motion and a second. Do I have any discussion?
I do.
Thank you.
I'm going to approve this. I think this is good. But I've also heard that I would like to see, and I guess maybe the Starlight is looking into it, about still putting the speakers on the poles. And I know in the past it's been very hard to get new speakers, but I've heard that there's a new company in Michigan, I believe, that can make these for something like $50 a shot. And I would hope that Starlight would look into that too. And I think that in the long run, that would be a very successful conclusion to all this.
Thank you. Any other comments?
I just would like to thank the Planning Commission. I talked to a few commissioners about the process and site visits and the time they put in on it prior to the vote, and I think they did a good job.
Mr. Bishop, anybody else in the comments? I'd like to personally thank the Starlight. When they first came to us and said this is what we would like to do, before they ever applied for a conditional use permit, they came to us and they did exactly what they said they would do. So thank you for that. Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
No.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Stipes.
Aye.
That's 5-1. The conditional use permit is granted. Congratulations, Peggy and folks. Rezoning request by Guy Matthew and Wendy W. Funk at 1800 Depot Street Northeast, tax map numbers 498A 90 and 498A 90A in the B3 General Business Zoning District to the R1 Single Family Residential Zoning District. The property is designated as residential on the future land use map of the 2013 Christiansburg Comprehensive Plan. Public hearing was held on June the 12th, 2018.
I'll make a motion that we approve the Funk's request at 1800 Depot Street Northeast from general business district zoning to R1 single family residential zoning.
I second that.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Questions? Thank you very much, Madam Clerk.
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop.
Aye.
Councilman Collins.
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard.
Aye.
Councilwoman Sacks.
Aye.
Councilman Showalter.
Aye.
Councilman Stipes.
Aye.
I believe that to be 6-0. Thank you very much. Also had a discussion, and I'm not sure how deep we want to go, but there is an agenda item discussing zoning ordinance and direction for Planning Commission. Randy, you kind of put this thing on the agenda.
I did add it to the agenda in part because we have had requests to study the industrial zoning districts. I know also we've had requests to review our ordinances in regards to transient occupancy, Airbnb type uses. Also, we've had mention of looking at the kennel definition, and I just basically put all these items out before Planning Commission or before Town Council to see whether you would want to consider maybe making changes. If there are changes made, they do have to be referred to Planning Commission. So, if you would want to study any of those items, we would want a little direction in particular on the industrial uses. The Planning Commission, I guess last year, made the recommendation to amend the code in regards to the private clubs in the industrial district with the CUP. The request basically is to allow more permissible uses in the industrial district. And I guess there's kind of two schools of thought on that. There's kind of the more traditional school of thought. The industrial districts are heavy manufacturing, and therefore you should try to limit those uses for that more industrial type uses. The other school of thought is that, industrial uses, manufacturing isn't quite what it is in the United States that it used to be, and that perhaps our ordinance is a little bit dated in that regard. So it may make sense to add more permitted uses just because of the fact that manufacturing isn't what it used to be. So, just kind of maybe get your thoughts on those, and if you do care to study those uses, or if you care to study the definition of kennel, if you care to study Airbnb, just give us what directions you would like. And in particular with the industrial districts, I guess maybe individually, if you could say you think you prefer more of a standard, I guess, classical industrial zoning district that is more manufacturing heavy uses, or whether it's more of a, I guess, a little more permissive in its uses. And just basically ask you to have whatever discussion if you would like to refer any of those to Planning Commission.
I've sort of looked at the industrial park, and everything that you just said, Mr. Winfield, about the changes, things that are going on, that maybe this would be a good time, maybe Planning Commission could start with, to maybe look over the ordinance, and maybe the ordinance does need to be rewritten a little bit and reverbalized, and that's what I would sort of recommend, that they look into that and see if maybe we need to change a little bit in how we align that ordinance. And that's what I would recommend, and maybe if Planning Commission could look at it again and see how they feel about it.
I personally asked that this be brought up again, directly related to the last meeting which I was out of town on, and Mr. Abraham and the action we took. But we've had several requests lately, in the last year and a half or so, for widely variant uses. Okay, so to get to the point, I think Planning Commission, I would recommend the Planning Commission take this up and advise us. I mean, this is what this is about, is to draw on their expertise and the diversity of their board. We have 10 people with lots of different skill sets to tell us, do we need to update our ordinance, or do we need to update our zoning to keep pace with trends? And so I'm not putting I wouldn't put any shackles on the review. I would more like them to tell us if our ordinance is outdated, and if so, how is it, and to make recommendations to us. That's quite simply, I don't want to shackle any, that's my personal thoughts on this, but it has to start, I think, with what's going on in industrial parks now. We have, and it's not calling anyone out, this is no interest in bringing anything negative towards anything that's going on in our industrial parks now, but we have a wide variety of uses going on now. It would be interesting to look and see what's going on. We have large warehouses. We have, we have just so generally speaking, I would like to see what they think about updating our ordinance to those uses. So that would be my interest. But I would be interested also in an inventory of what types of activities are going on now. And this would not be in the interest of putting anyone out of business or to putting a thumb on anybody, but rather as a benchmark, is to say, here's what's going on now. What should we do as we move ahead on those permitted uses?
And I take it what you're saying is maybe a couple people from Planning Commission could actually come here and verbalize what their study has said and what their findings are, just sort of address us and brief us of what they've come up with. I would like that.
And I'm on the Planning Commission, and I think that can be handled well with us too, but I'd also like to go to Virginia Tech and get some students to do something towards us, to look at different things all over the country, not just us around here, and get the broad spectrum of it. So we know where everybody stands, not just one location.
I take it they'll just form a subcommittee to study this, and they make recommendations to the group, and then they bring them to us.
There's a development committee on it.
Yeah. Very good. It sounds like, so that's one.
Yes, that's the first one.
So what do you need from us for the de-industrial look into?
I think that's enough that you want them to consider it. If that's the consensus of council, we will have them study the industrial uses. In regards to the Airbnb issue, transient occupancy, would you want them to study that issue as well?
Absolutely.
And in front of you this evening, just as food for thought, there is a listing of the Christiansburg Industrial Park list of businesses. As we try to make it as inclusive as possible. I think we got most of the businesses and all. But there's 20 listed, and I think you'll find it fairly interesting with the types of businesses there. So this is just moving forward as we start to study this. I think this is a good list to start with.
Oh, okay. Very good.
Yeah, I think so. I would suggest maybe even, and I think it's been a trend, the county may have done this, or someone said, maybe a renaming instead of an industrial park. That sounds very limited, but some other name that might be a little bit more inclusive to things.
Montgomery County actually calls it Falling Branch Corporate Park now.
Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, this is not meant for or against anyone. I think it raises the question of, do we need to update to keep pace with, because I haven't been on the planning commission for 7 years, and looking at the comp plan, we looked at more zoning, but a lot of the language in there is decades old, and get some head nods. But so if they could look at that and say, hey, to keep pace with trends and to not discourage or to encourage activity in there. So this is a great start. Thank you.
All these little places that you have on this sheet, all 20 of them, they're all actively in doing something, is that correct? They're not buildings sitting there empty or like that, they're all active. And
Correct. There are some vacant spaces and a few vacant
but that's not on this list.
That's not reflected.
Okay, thank
I mean, for me personally, I would think the industrial and Airbnb would be on the front burner. I know the kennel was addressed, but that's something we looked into a few months ago and upgraded. To me, that would be more on the back burner. Let them cover these two issues first and then deal with what was mentioned with the kennels maybe later.
I will point out that we did get a conviction on Dale Street as it was, so I think enforcement there wasn't necessarily an issue. And regardless of the amount of litters or the number of dogs they have, if they are selling dogs, we would still consider a kennel. And if they are running a puppy mill, they're going to have to be advertising them somehow.
Well, then maybe just concentrate on those two and then have the kennel in the background, and we can touch on that in a few months.
I think the Dow Street property is going to take care of itself, already has to an extent. Okay, very good. I will call your attention, I don't know whether you've had a chance, I think I forwarded you all some information that I received from VML today on Airbnbs. You haven't had a chance to look at it. Michelle Gowdy, who's the executive director, and she called me the other day when she read something that we were looking at it, and there were some things that some research that they had done through legal and some others. So I'll ask you to take a look at that if you haven't had a chance. There's nothing we need to do about it at this point in life until we get the Planning Commission involved in it. Okay. Staff reports, town manager.
Montgomery Regional Solid Waste Authority, of course, we appointed Barry Helms as our representative at the last meeting for a one-year term. They were asking that all of the member jurisdictions act to appoint the at-large member. That's Al Bowman. He's actually been on the Solid Waste Authority since its inception in '95. He's the only member that's been on there since its inception. And his term is proposed to be a 2-year term beginning July 1st. And if you are willing to basically act to reappoint him, I'd appreciate it if you could.
Make a motion to appoint Mr. Bowman.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir.
Let me, before you get out, I'm not sure there's a necessity for Mr. Bowman to come to a meeting. I mean, he's been here longer than some of us on council, so it's probably, he's been coming for years, so he's a retired general manager of Polyscientific Moog Industries, so.
Well, tell him, if you reach out to him, tell him to stop by sometime. We'll break precedence a little bit.
Sure.
So I've met him once before, but we have a wealth of knowledge now on that board with Barry and him.
Madam Clerk?
Okay, yes, sir. Councilman Bishop? Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard? Councilwoman Sachs? Aye. Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
That's 6-0. Thank you very much.
If you remember, earlier this year, we budgeted $4,000 for the housing study to be conducted by the Newer Valley Regional Commission in conjunction with the Virginia Housing Development Authority. They have proposed that they could do an additional detailed study of housing conditions in town for an additional $7,000 as an add-on to that study, if you would care for it. I just basically put that before you. If we do want to add on the $7,000 housing conditions study, then we would need to let them know by the end of July.
What would the benefits of that be?
I think it would give you age of housing stock, whether there's adequate plumbing, things like that. I think those are the type of things that would be addressed in it.
And what are the benefits of that to us?
Well, it is private property, so I guess it gives you an idea of what is in town. I think if you were going to do a housing program or something in the future, it might be useful. I know Blacksburg's probably a little more involved in housing rehab, obviously, than we are, because they do get more CDBG money than we do. We typically use our CDBG, well, we've always used our CDBG money, at least in regards to park area for sidewalk projects. But you can use it for other things. You can use it for housing rehab if we desire to. Installation programs, things like that.
I would be inclined to say no.
I agree.
career.
And it's before the end of July, so you can have your answer.
Would you want, I think, is that a consensus that we tell them no, or do you want to take time and think about it?
You know, I think maybe it would be an interesting thing to table for right now, until we get an idea from Kevin and his bunch exactly what we're going to get. I mean, we're speculating we're going to get all
If
this.
you'd like me to get a little write-up description, I can bring it to the next
Is that
next meeting.
reasonable to you all to consider?
Okay, I'd like more information.
Yeah, I think so.
That's good.
If that positions, I guess my mind would be swayed if that would change our ability to get grants and stuff for CD block grant and some other things. Based on that simple explanation, I would say I don't see the benefit, but if there's more benefit to it, perhaps.
Or even if Kevin wanted to come one night and just give a short talk on with some handout material, that might, he's pretty good at what he does.
Yes.
Which is raising money, you know. All right.
I'll bring it on the future agenda.
Will you work with Kevin on that?
Yes.
Henry, if you, next meeting, if you have a chance. I figured you.
Just going to pass down a thank you card from the American Cancer Society in regards to our support for Relate for Life. So, that's all I have.
Very good. Madam Attorney?
No report this evening.
Any other staff members to report? Council reports, I will start with Mr. Collins. He looked like he was about to bust.
I got a whole lot to say tonight. The first thing, are you folks going to raise funds to try to get speakers in the cars? I've heard that.
I've heard that too.
Well, is it true though? I'm asking for a reason.
I'm trying,
You're trying to do that? You're trying to get started?
yeah, well, I'm trying to dig up some money.
Okay. Well, my wife and I would like, I've already got it written down, to give you a check for $100 to get started. Okay?
Sir.
Okay? We want you to be successful, but we don't want you to go anywhere. Okay? The second thing is, this week is my last week on the New River Valley Regional Commission. And it's a shame because I think the commission's a great commission. And anybody that has a chance to serve on that from us should do so. It's a great commission, it really is. It really is. The next thing I want to talk about is the article in the newspaper this weekend that said, basically, council did not want some signage for the wrestling program, which is not entirely true. I don't think anybody does not want it. We just got to get it worked out. And most of us were at the awards ceremony when they had it, the parade. Most of us were there. And several of us on here would love a signage for the wrestling program. We just have to figure out a way to make it happen. And if anybody's got that way, please let me know. Thank y'all.
Mr. Bishop?
I don't have anything.
Mr. Showalter?
No.
Mr. Stopes?
Nothing, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Hubbard?
Yes, I would like to say about, the recycling is going to start on, I believe it's July 3rd. And I would just like to say about how our people have, I think, done a tremendous job of informing the public that this is going to happen and how it's going to happen. And I'm not sure, hopefully that most of you people received on your door this past couple days. Mine yesterday, they brought it to me when the recycling will start and what they will take and what they will not take and what days you will get it. I mean, I just think they've done an outstanding job, and I just don't see how many people in Christiansburg can say, hey, I wasn't informed about this. So I would like just the public works people, I don't know, Mr. Wingfield, if you wouldn't mind just making sure that the council appreciates the efforts that they've done. And I know they have been at the farmers market every Thursday for the last month and a half, trying to do that. So I applaud them.
Ms. Sachs?
I'll just give a brief update of the subcommittee meetings. We received in Central Business a wonderful presentation by Casey Jenkins, the event coordinator, and learned a whole lot about the plans that he has coming up, which is exciting. You recently, if you made it to the farmer's market last week, there was a big dog show, and I think that was a huge hit considering all the pictures that we saw on Facebook and other social media. So congratulations for a successful event, Casey, and thanks for the work you do. We did talk about the closing of Hickok Street and that progress. We talked about the fair lodging tax, and we realized that it was going to need a lot more attention. So we discussed pitching it to the Planning Commission. And then also we did discuss the champion signs, perhaps putting that into the wayfinding sign project that we have going now. So that's all of the updates for my subcommittees. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like to remind everyone that, according to my information, the Aldi store is going to have their ribbon cutting at 8:25 Thursday morning. Quite a lot of excitement about it. I would also like to pick up on Mr. Collins's comment about the newspaper article, which I found to be pretty inaccurate at times. We never met with the county to ask them to help fund the sign. If the author had been to that meeting, he would have heard that our first thing was, we want to make sure that it's fair to all. So if we're going to put up a wrestling sign, then we're basically going to tell 9 or 10 other state championship teams, you didn't make a cut. So, I mean, I have a printout of all of the state team championships that I got today. So I don't think that was kind of a fair assessment of it. And I will be in contact with the school superintendent and principal of the high school on some of the other comments made. So with that, Mr. Snipes?
We ready? I move to certify the town council, I move that the town council enter into closed meeting as stipulated in accordance with the Code of Virginia, Section 2.2-3711, parenthesis 29, for the discussion of the award of a public contract involving the expenditure of public funds, including interviews of bidders or offerers, and discussion of the terms or scope of such contract, where discussion in an open session would adversely affect the bargaining position or negotiating strategy of the public body. The discussion pertains to the former Truman Wilson land development contract.
That's in form of a motion.
That is a motion.
Second. Got a motion and a second to enter into closed session. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sachs?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
That is 6-0. We're going to take about a 3, 4, 5 minute recess, and we'll reconvene into the closed session. Out of our closed session, Mr. Stipes?
Okay, I move to certify that the town of Christiansburg, or town council of the town of Christiansburg meeting in closed meetings, to the best of each member's knowledge, discussed only public business matters lawfully exempt from open meeting requirements by Virginia law, and only such matters as are identified in the resolution to enter into closed meeting.
That's a motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Yes, sir. Councilman Bishop?
Aye.
Councilman Collins?
Aye.
Councilman Hubbard?
Aye.
Councilwoman Sachs?
Aye.
Councilman Showalter?
Aye.
Councilman Stipes?
Aye.
That is 6-0. Thank you very much. We're not taking any action on the matter that we discussed. Is there anything else to come before council?
I just had an open question, please, if you don't mind. Just curious, the pothole update with Hobby Lobby. I happened to think about that.
That's a private road.
It is. I'm just making sure we reached out to them because I noticed there's no cones there anymore.
We did contact them, but is it, I take it they've removed them then? So
They have, and that's like a serious.
We'll contact them.
It is.
Pothole in the entrance?
Oh, it's horrible. There's several out there.
Do we want to consider taking that? I mean,
We what?
Do we want to consider taking that over if they would?
It's always been an issue.
Bring it up to.
It's always been an issue, not just now.
A little section right there, it's no man's land, and
Everybody thinks it's public, but it's not.
Yeah.
I think we need to put a sign up there, it's a private street, call, actually, there's Tallheimer and whoever's the developers of that lot.
It's a developer out of Georgia that bought.
Have they
They've been
contacted?
notified, and we've said that it's not reflecting well, on them, and they are not here, so that is a problem. And they
What's
got
the
several
cons in
pictures.
doing, in looking into us taking over that stretch?
well, there's issues with the parking lot that it wouldn't meet entrance standards. We have to consider that. They are proposing another building there, which I don't know if it would
Cause setback issues.
cause setback issues. We've talked about ways to get around that.
But we got them on a cod lock. If they apply for anything else, we can hold them up until they fix the road. Is that correct?
Well, I think that is they're thinking
Can we
that
just
they're
fill
going to
it?
be repaving everything with the new building, so that they have been notified and we'll reach out to them.
Is there a chance that we could just like when someone doesn't mow their yard, we mow it and send them a bill? Can we push that issue? Because,
We can, but we have to give them a 30-day notice.
oh yeah,
I don't have a problem,
that's crazy.
but I don't have a problem with that. I hear more about that now
Yeah.
than any other issue that we've had past couple
Potholes
years.
in Hot July?
Yes. This guy, let me tell you, this guy's doing a great job. I mean, when Aldi's opens up, there's going to be tons of traffic on that street.
I mean, at least-
And the first thing people think of is the town of Christiansburg is responsible, and you can say whatever you want, and they don't care, and it's all in perception. So
They
if it
really
costs
shouldn't
us,
be able to open until those potholes are fixed.
I know what you're talking about now. You're talking about coming up behind Wendy's.
Yes.
I know. I was trying to imagine.
we have
I
two
know exactly
businesses that
what you're
roll
talking
out right there, plus
massive.
It seems
what he
like
owns.
public. It seems quasi-public, but it's not. Yeah, I know exactly.
Yeah.
You go into Wells
I mean,
Fargo or Wendy's.
I got a tow bill to prove it, how bad it is. Oh
I would
my
not have a
God.
problem with pursuing like we do with high grass.
Yeah.
Because when Aldi opens up, it's going to be packed. Hobby Lobby's always packed. That has become a hot spot. That guy has delivered on what.
I'm excited for the development, but I just want them to be responsible and take care of the
Right.
street.
I wonder if
Send them your tow bill, maybe that'll get their attention. I doubt it. But yeah.
I wonder if there will be representatives from Tallheimer. Is Tallheimer, I think. Is one of the leasing agents.
They lease it, but it's, right, it's a,
You think maybe one of the developers will be there? We
The
just
owner-
take him down and show him?
right, yeah. Well, we'll reach out to whoever's there. I'm not sure of the owner of the Hobby Lobby property, because they have sold, the Aldi property. That's been subdivided off, so that, that is owned by Aldi. That was their plan.
Do they
for a long
know
time.
that that's an issue, Aldi?
Yeah, so I don't know if Aldi knows, because it is a separate, they're taking care of what they're responsible for at this point. And
Can we
that's why
figure out
haven't
who
been able to
owns the
hold up
road
their
and
CO.
just
It's that.
Yeah.
push?
The Hobby Lobby owns the road.
I mean, if we did that when this was brought up before, we'd probably be 2 weeks into the 30 days by now. Did we push it?
Simply pointed it out to them.
In hopes that they do the right thing.
Let's push it.
Yeah, push
Starting
it.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Registered letters.
I respect it not.
30 days.
Opinion.
And it wouldn't surprise me if the cost of fixing that road wasn't about 10 grand.
It's a nuisance.
I would
mean, it's a
rather fill the potholes rather than
It's a
pave it.
responsibility, and if they'd let us fill them, I would love
Oh,
to
it's
fill them
bad.
tomorrow and just send them a
I think,
bill. But it's a responsibility,
You could put some stone and cold mix in there for less than $1,000. Maybe
Well, I'm about 300 into the tow bill, so, yeah, it's
When
serious.
stone and cold mix hold.
It's not less.
They're probably
It's not Harless. It's one before Harless.
hot mix every day, so
Which way you going?
we'd probably use hot mix. We would probably use anything cold.
So we have a vehicle, no pun intended, we have a method in place, a system in place, a process in place to do that,
We could fix it, yes.
but we have to give 30-day notice?
As a zoning violation is what it would be. not maintaining the property.
We have a way to do
It's a
that.
30-day notice.
To take care of the problem, and we don't have to pay for it. Ultimately, they would have to pay for it.
Church on Depot.
We charge them.
If we call them and say, hey. North Drive? No. Okay.
I mean, how much money are we talking?
We don't know.
No idea.
Normally, the abatement for zoning violation is taking to some court, although we can abate it ourselves.
Man, I had that thing I thought.
Well, here's the other problem. Here's the other problem we're gonna run into. We fix it, then every other private road owner in town is expecting us to fix their problems, so we're not gonna do it.
I don't like that idea.
We are here to speak for the citizens, and right now, the citizens are talking to us on social media, and they demand that it get fixed. I personally feel like we need to push and get that thing fixed as quickly as possible.
I will point out the shopping center behind McDonald's.
Oh, yes.
If you've driven that route.
So I don't want to set a precedent jumping out, but I would hope that some contact followed by a formal notice be handed to the manager of Hobby Lobby and the owner of whoever the company, the corporation that owns Hobby Lobby.
We'll send notices tomorrow, and I'll stop and talk to the construction manager and just say, hey, all you gotta do is put down some gravel and a little bit of hot mix.
That's all you gotta do.
That's it.
They could have done that last week when they paid a lot.
If you're sending a notice to them, can't you see, or like also send a copy to Wells, Wendy's, and Aldi's, being property owners that join that lot, so that they know that we have reached out to them?
Yes, you could.
Because I guarantee you, their customers are saying the same thing.
Yeah.
And Aldi being brand new, that might push this guy to fix it.
Yes.
Or at least just fill it in.
Good idea.
But until we get it fixed, we'll go ahead and put a handgun barrel in there again and weld it down or something, nail it down. Because they had a barrel in the middle of it. That caught your attention.
There was a cone there, but it was
Okay.
gone.
Anything else to come before council? Hearing nothing, we are adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.